All right, everyone. We are back for episode 57 of Stub Love Live. 57 episodes, man. Woo! Woo! It's a lot of stuff. A lot of good ticket content. A lot of people that have followed and dedicated time to watching the show and participating. So I always thank everyone for that, and I always appreciate everyone watching and being a part of this great experience. So it's kind of interesting. I publicized today that we were going to have on someone that was going to talk about the road to the National. And we're going to break this down into 3 segments. The first segment being tonight, and then the other 2 segments probably being in the early part of July and then mid-July. And the first part tonight, we advertised that a 40-year collector was going to come on and talk about experiences at the National and things that collectors, ticket collectors especially, could use to help make the National the best possible experience. And that 40-plus year collector is yours truly. I wanted to do a show about the National and give fellow collectors tips on things that I've done well and I've done poorly in relationship to the National Sports Collectors Convention. Now, we're about 60 days out from the National, and it's just wild to me. I really can't believe that we're only 60 days away from being in Chicago and back at the National. And I've said this before, this National is the 45th National Sports Collectors Convention. I started going to the National in 1989, and that was the 10th National Sports Collectors Convention. So I can't say that I've been to every one since 1989, but I've been to a lot of them. And I can't say that I've been to more than probably a handful when I've really been focused on ticket collecting, but I've been to enough to know some of the do's and some of the don'ts. And I wanted to share that with people because I think that really, it's kind of meaningful. Someone who's walked around the show, who's engaged with dealers, who has had some phenomenal experiences. I've had some misses. I've had some great gets. But, like I said, I in 1989, I was in high school. And that's kind of when I started my pursuit of collecting memorabilia, collecting autographs, of course, collecting sports cards, and then, kind of gravitating into tickets. So the first piece of advice, and I wanted to give some real advice. I think there's going to be a lot of dealers, a lot of individuals who are going to put content out, and it's all going to be the same content. It's all going to be the, hey, wear comfortable shoes, and hey, bring a lot of cash. Cash is king. Make the most of the experience. Enjoy. Blah, blah, blah. And I don't think that those episodes are bad. We've just seen them repeated over and over and over again. We see them every year because it's just content building. And I didn't want to just do that. I wanted to do a 3-part series, and I wanted to do the first part tonight to just try to give the best real advice that I could. The other 2 parts are going to focus in on dealers who have been set up at Nationals in the past with almost exclusively tickets, what they've learned, the goods and the bads, and, what you can expect to see at their booths at this year's National in Chicago, which, again, it's July 30th to August the 3rd. And then lastly, I'm going to get into this, but I'm going to make an announcement about our ticket meetup that we have every year. We've got the location and we've got the time. So we'll announce that at the end of the show. But I think the first thing that deserves commentary when we're talking about the National, and I don't want to start off on a negative note, but I'm going to. Be careful. Be very, very careful. And why I say that is this. The National is the grandiose show for sports collectibles. Everyone who comes to the National is coming with money. They are coming to buy. And candidly, a lot are flying in from different parts of the country. When you are flying in from different parts of the country, you're buying plane tickets, you're spending money on hotel, you are making it into, your potentially trip of the summer. Everyone knows, including the dealers, that you are there to buy. You are there to spend money. Be careful, because a couple of things can happen. One, these dealers can price things higher than normal because their expectation is people are coming with money. They are coming to make purchases. So why not take advantage of those people? And I'm not saying they're doing it with any ill will. I'm not saying that there's any nefarious intentions. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying, guys, is you're flying in like me from South Florida. I see Taylor Hamilton just joined. He's going to be coming this year, I hope. He's going to be flying in from California. I saw Scott Foraker on. He's going to be flying in from California. People know you're flying in, you're spending money on the plane, you're spending money on the hotel, you're gonna have, good meals in Chicago. You're there to make it an experience, and you don't want to go home empty-handed. So they raise the prices. They really do, on everything. And I've seen it repeatedly over and over again at Nationals. And you've got to be very, very careful that you don't fall for it. So do your homework, do your due diligence. Make sure that before you go and you make a purchase at the National, that, you kind of have an understanding of what that ticket or what that item or what that card or what that autograph is really worth before you go ahead and overpay on it. And again, there's a lot of really good quality dealers at the National. The best of the best, because the best comes out for the National. You've got to be really smart. And you can't walk into the National and just kind of say to yourself, I'm just going to start buying. I'm going to buy everything in sight. I really think that that's a mistake. I think a lot of collectors, ticket collectors in particular, have a problem with focusing in on their purchases. And I think if you think about it in the sense that I just provided, if you have dealers who are pricing everything higher, they've got an extra 10% built in because they've had to fly or drive from wherever they are based out of. They had to put themselves and their staff up in hotels. They've got the road meals as opposed to meals at home. So they're incorporating a lot into their costs, and they understand that. So they go ahead and they build that into the price of the items that they have for sale. Hey, Ignacio Collection, how you doing? So yeah, be very mindful of that. So that would be tip one. Be careful. Tip two, and maybe tip two is stay focused. Focus in on your spending. Yeah, I know Rick Ignacio is going to be at his first National, so we're pretty excited about meeting him. He's a great collector. We thank him for all his content that he puts on IG. So I guess step 2 or tip 2 would be, focus your spending. From the specifics of ticket collecting at the National, I would say this, and it's kind of funny. It flies in the face almost of maybe some of the first two tips. But what I would say to everyone is, if you see something at someone's booth, you see a rare ticket, you see a ticket that you haven't seen in the 10 years that you've been collecting, you've coveted this ticket, you want this ticket. If you see it at a booth and you want it, buy it. Buy it. Because in the world of tickets, you may never see it again. You may never, ever see it again. I would give different advice to card collectors. If I'm a card collector and I want to buy a mid-grade 1958 Mickey Mantle card, there are going to be hundreds of those cards at the National. Hundreds of them at the National. If I have a specific ticket that I want and I've been looking for it for 10 years, 8 years, 5 years, and I've never seen one, and a dealer has it, and I know that other people might also be interested in that ticket, buy it. Don't let it get away. And if you have to overpay, well, you have to make that decision whether or not it's a smart purchase for you, whether or not it's right for you. But as far as opportunity goes, there will be opportunities to purchase items, tickets at the National that you will not have opportunities to purchase at any other time during the year or at any other venue or show that's put together throughout this country. So that's kind of a pretty important tip. If you've coveted something ticket-wise, you've wanted it for a long time, you've not seen it, you've not even seen an example, or you've seen one but never had an opportunity to purchase it, man, don't let it slip through your fingers. I'm going to give you all an example. I brought some tickets with me, not a whole lot, but these are some pickups at various different Nationals. So this is a great ticket. This happens to be a ticket to the game where Red Sox superstar, and this guy was the next Ted Williams, Tony Conigliaro, was hit by a pitch. He was hit in the eye, and it basically destroyed his entire career. Now, I had never seen a Tony Conigliaro hit by pitch ticket in my entire life. I knew that there were a couple that existed. I had just never seen one, and I always really wanted one. And I went up to a dealer's table. This is 3 years ago, I guess, in Atlantic City. And I wanted the ticket. I really did. And he had 4 or 5 Red Sox-related tickets. Nothing that really interests me other than this one. And I blinked. I blinked for literally 3 minutes. I was doing something else caught my eye. I left the guy's table. I went and did what I was going to do. I was gone 3 minutes, 4 minutes tops. I went back to the table and it was gone. Someone else had bought the ticket. And I was like devastated that I had lost the opportunity. It was a ticket I was holding in my hands. I had it in my hands, and I was talking about the price. And when I went back and the guy's like, yeah, I just sold it, I was just floored. The one good thing was that the dealer who was selling it said to me, I sold it to another guy who set up just down the way there. And I wound up being able to negotiate a deal where I gave up a few tickets in trade, and then I included some cash in the deal. So I was able to actually purchase this for my PC, but I definitely overpaid versus what I would have paid the original seller. Now, I still think I did really well on the ticket, and I'm still super thrilled that I made that deal, and I did very well on it. But had I not blinked, I would have even done better. And that was a real quick lesson to me, which was if you see a ticket and you have an opportunity to purchase it, and it's something that's a grail find for you, or it's something that checks one of your boxes that you've been looking for an incredibly long time, I would 100% make sure you don't walk away from that table without the ticket that you covet. Another piece of advice, I guess we move into maybe tip 4, Sunday buying, final day buying. I hear people say all the time, does Sunday buying actually exist? Like, can you get deals on Sunday? Can you get deals on the last day of the National? And my answer is, it depends. It really depends. I think it depends on a couple of things. Overall, number one would be, did the dealer or did dealers generally do well at that particular National? That's a big factor. And then I think if you break it down one layer further, it's did that individual dealer do well at the National? So I think, if you go back to the Atlantic City National a few years ago, I think it was kind of a unique National. I think some dealers did well. I don't think anyone thought that they killed it at that National. And I know some dealers, not just ticket collectors or ticket dealers, but other memorabilia dealers that thought Atlantic City was disappointing. And I remember when I was walking around in Atlantic City, there was a dealer that had a raw, and I will show it to you guys, 1966 NCAA Finals ticket. He also had the semifinals ticket. It's the first all-black starting 5 for an NCAA game where the championship was won by the starting 5 that was all African-American. Great ticket, wanted it for my collection. And the guy had the raw tickets, so the finals game, and then behind it was the semifinals game in a little ticket book. And you really had no booklet, but it was actually attached to a white piece of cardboard. Exactly the way they were sold when they originally were purchased, and then the tear was at the end of the ticket. And he had a pretty high price on it. And I saw it the first day that I was there. That first day that I showed up at the National, I saw it. And I really wanted the ticket. I really wanted those tickets. And I didn't purchase it on day one because it was just too expensive. And then I saw him there on Friday, still there. Saturday, still there. Sunday, I'm walking by his table, and I hear the dealer say to another dealer, "Man, this was a terrible National for me. I got killed." Now, granted, I heard him say that, which more likely than not you're not going to hear, but I heard it. And, I had a price in mind, and I went ahead and I made him an offer on the tickets. He countered. I kind of still kept in my head what I had heard, said no, I couldn't go there. I'm sticking to my initial offer. I think it's a very solid offer. I've seen you've had these here all show. You haven't sold them. It's either a yes or a no. And the guy took it. And he said, I'm losing money on these, but, this is going to help to, at least pay for my nut to, for the table to set up at the National. So I was able to get the 1966 Texas Western all African American starting 5 in the NCAA championship game, and it actually came with the semifinals game. So very cool. Both same seats. Same seats. So they kind of pair up nicely. Really nice shape. I mean, they're both 3s, but these are way nicer than 3s. This is just PSA being stupid. But, really, really good finds. And I found them on a Sunday. So I do think that that's possible, that you can find discounts and you can find deals on Sundays. I think if the show is really good for everyone, those deals are going to be fewer and far between. I know a couple years ago in Chicago, it was a phenomenal show. Everyone killed it. You weren't finding deals on Sundays. You really weren't. And last year in Cleveland, that was a really good show too for all dealers. So I don't think people were finding, Sunday bargains. But, if you're going to be at the show on Sunday, target a few things that maybe were really high priced or you felt were overpriced and you wanted to go ahead and take a shot at them, on the final day. Maybe you make a low ball offer and see if you can get something done. So another good tip. I think another point that I want to make is this is a national, guys. It's the biggest, best, and brightest. There's nothing better than the national. You're going to have a lot of opportunities to learning not just about tickets as ticket collectors, but you're also going to be able to see and learn about, other forms of memorabilia, autographs, game used material, unopened packs, unopened cards, type 1 photographs. I mean, take it all in, because you may go there thinking, I'm only here to collect tickets, or I'm only here to pick up something for my ticket collection. But maybe you see a photo of something that, is incredibly meaningful to you, or could be a nice companion item to one of the tickets that you have. So, you're going to talk to people, you're going to engage with people, you're going to want to learn from them to see if there's maybe an opportunity for you to grow as a collector. You're at the Mecca. You're at the best place to collect, the best place to buy, the best place to see, the best place to learn. So I always say, do that. Make the most of those opportunities, because you may not have it again. So, talk to people, engage people, ask questions, learn. Maybe you'll find yourself not picking up a ticket, but maybe you'll find yourself picking up a great vintage autograph, or, an unopened pack of cards. I don't really collect cards anymore, but I really think unopened packs are super cool. I'd love to put a nice little run together from the 1970s. I just haven't done it yet, but maybe this will be the national that I buy my first unopened pack and I start to put that run together. So, we'll see. I think everyone comes out of the national, and I think it's a consensus among every person, collector, dealer, it doesn't matter. Friendships, networking, enjoying the experience is what comes out of the national as the most important thing. I love picking up tickets. I mean, I really do. And I've picked up some great ones. But at the same time, I try to make the most of seeing people that I'm only going to see once a year. And, they may not come to every national, so it might even be longer. But I'm going to see them. We share a similar passion. We share a similar joy. And I'm going to want to talk to those people. I'm going to want to talk to everybody. So, there's times where I walk out of a national and I don't really pick up much of anything. I'll be lucky to pick up a ticket, maybe one. And it was still a super successful national for me, because maybe I traded some things. Maybe I consigned some things to an auction house. But maybe I got to talk to Sean Doherty from I Collect Tickets for a couple of hours and had dinner with them. And I got to see Eric Zitter and go to a ball game with him, and, just see and talk and experience things that I don't get to do other than when I go to the national. So, even if you're there for one day, or you're there like I'm going to be for, 4 days, make the most of it. I'm going to definitely try to get a Cubs game in, probably the first day that I get there. I'm going to have some dinners. I already have them lined up. We'll talk a little bit about the the ticket trade, or we should call it the ticket meetup, where you can, meet collectors and also trade tickets. That's a phenomenal event. And, again, it's just seeing and talking to people that I don't see and get to talk to all that often during the year. And, they're right in my presence. I mean, they're there live in the flesh. So that's super important when it comes to the National. I think another really good tip is, if you have a want list and there are things that you're looking for, put out an email to fellow collectors. Maybe pick up the phone and call and text some collectors and say, hey, I'm going to be at the National this year, and this is what I'm looking for. This is what I collect. Do you have any of this? Do you have any of that? I'm interested in building this part of my collection. And you'd be surprised. Maybe people would bring some of that stuff for you, but they're not going to bring it if they don't know about it. So, I would go on Boogers Stubs, and I think everyone should post on Boogers Stubs, hey, I'm going to be at the National. These are the days I'm going to be here. These are the things I collect. These are specific tickets that I'm looking for. Please call me or message me on Facebook in advance. Let's talk about it. And, hopefully I'll have the opportunity to connect with you at the National. And, I'll be able to pick things up that, had I not put that notification out to the world of collectors, they would have never known. The other thing, too, is you can tell people I'm trading, I'm buying. You're going to see a whole lot at the National. This is a great ticket. This is Michael Jordan's The First Shot, the shot over Craig Elo. And this was a ticket that I picked up at the National in Chicago a couple years ago. It was part of a trade with a pretty big ticket collector. But, again, I had no real intention of coming home with that ticket. But I saw he had it. I talked to him a little bit about my interest in it. He put a relatively fair price on it. I told him I was more interested in trading some things for it. He took some good tickets of mine, but tickets that I had duplicates of. And I walked out with, a pretty significant grail. So you kind of never know what's going to happen. The other thing, too, about patience. This is the Chicago Cubs Billy Goat Curse ticket. And I wanted a full. I always wanted a full. And, I saw two dealers at the National that year had fulls. And both had very significant prices on the fulls. And I just wasn't in a position to pay, overpay for that ticket. I wanted it, but I didn't want to overpay for it. I searched, and maybe 2 or 3 days in the National, I saw someone have this one. And it was beautiful. And I think it was undergraded at a 3. It's just a gorgeous ticket. And he wanted a fourth of what the other two dealers wanted. A fourth. And that was his ask. And I remember saying, this really doesn't fit into what you're selling here. Why do you have this ticket? He's like, that's a good question. Why do I have this ticket? I really don't need it. It's not something that fits into my collection. If you'll take it off my hands for X, I'll sell it. And then I remember I countered, and I literally got it for half of what he had it listed for. And that list price was 4 times less than the other two dealers who had the ticket at their booths. So I did really well. And again, once I realized he had it, and once I realized that there was a price that, was meaningful and reasonable, and I was going to get a really good deal, I didn't let it slip through my fingertips. No way. And then, kind of talking about the networking and, throwing out your lists of what you want, and trying to engage with everyone that you see, and being nice to everybody at the National, talking to everybody at the National. Don't be quiet. Walk over, introduce yourself, talk to them. They're going to be excited to talk to you. I picked up I bought nothing at the National last year, maybe a couple real low-end tickets. And I really didn't think I was going to go home with anything meaningful. And a collector that I know, great guy, he and I were talking. He actually had a ticket to Cal Ripken's, the first game of Cal Ripken's streak. He brought his ticket to get autographed at last year's National. And I was like, man, I really wish I could find one of those. That's one that's a grail of mine. And he was like, well, it just happens to be that, someone who I'm here with, I don't want to give away too much of the story, but someone who I'm here with actually has one as well. And he's here to sell it. And I believe from the moment he told me that till the moment I owned this ticket was 5 minutes or less. And we did a deal right on the floor of the National. It was a raw copy. I wound up getting it signed by Cal. And, Cal, of course, spanked it. And he says, first game of streak. I got it slabbed and graded by PSA. And I couldn't be happier. And it's one that's going to remain in my collection for as long as I hope the collection exists. But didn't get it from a dealer. Didn't get it from anyone that was set up. Got it from a fellow collector who was there with someone else who just happened to have that ticket and really only that ticket. And I kind of got lucky. But I walked over, I engaged, I talked, and, I'm thrilled to have it. I'm thrilled to own it. I would also say for collectors too, if you're there with tickets to trade or tickets to sell, and then you get, thanks Josh, I appreciate it. You go there with stuff to trade or to sell, and maybe it doesn't work out for you. Maybe you don't trade the tickets that you have. Maybe you don't sell the tickets that you have. You're there for the final day. It doesn't have to be Sunday. Maybe it's just your final day. Maybe go over to some of the auction houses and see if they want to take those tickets from you and put them in their auctions. You're in a place where all of these auction houses are set up. So it's good to go over there and talk to them, see if they'll give you a deal, if you can sign stuff to them. And that way you don't have to worry about shipping the stuff or losing the stuff in the mail to send it to these auction houses. You're right there. You're going to be in Chicago. You'll be able to fill out the forms. You'll be able to give them the material, so none of it's going to have to be shipped. You're not going to have to reach out and find the right person to talk to at the auction house. They're going to be there. They're going to be at the booth. You can talk to them right there. So I kind of think that's also a positive. So if you're thinking about consigning and you've never done it before, I use Heritage, and I think Heritage does a really nice job. I use Leland's. I think Leland's also does a nice job. But, Golden will be there. REA will be there. Memory Lane will be there. All the big auction houses will be there. And, they're going to be looking to take in as much consignment as they possibly can. So a little bit of a benefit to collectors to do it in person. So final quick point is the ticket meetup. So a couple of years ago, we were in Chicago. We had the ticket meetup at Revolution Brewery or Revolution Brewing. And it's actually not in Rosemont. It is in downtown Chicago. So it is a little bit of a commute from where the show is. But it was a phenomenal venue. We had such a great time. They catered to us. We brought in some food. They have great beer, some of the best beer around. And, so we're going to announce tonight and, happy to be able to do it, that we're going to be back for the ticket meetup at Revolution Brewing on Friday, August the 1st. So it'll be the Friday of the National. It's going to start at 7, we think. That's probably, the best time to do it. Give some people an opportunity to leave the National and commute out here. You can take an Uber. It's not bad. I think there's ways to take, the train, but we took an Uber. It wasn't bad at all. So Friday, August 1st at Revolution Brewing. We'll give more of the exact particulars as it gets closer. Probably 7 to 10. Everyone will be there. I think we had, the initial year, 35 people. Last year we had close to 40. Hopefully we'll get, the same amount or more. It's just the highlight, really the highlight of the National. So if you're coming in the National, certainly plan that you're there at the ticket meetup event at Revolution Brewing on Friday. We'll certainly give out more information as it gets closer. Sean Doherty from I Collect Tickets, I'm sure he's going to promote it as well. Online, on IG, on Boogers, and then on the Talking Ticket show. So, I think that's a wrap. I've been talking to you guys for about 35 minutes. I don't want to make these long. I hope these are meaningful tips. tuck them away, think about them. I'm going to be at the National. I'm real easy to find. If you need a voice or an ear, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to help someone. I'd love to talk to someone. Hey, I'm not sure if I should buy this ticket. What do you think? Or I'm not sure if this is the right price. Or, what do you think about venturing into something else? I'm happy to answer whatever questions you have. Again, I really want to thank everyone for supporting the show. It still amazes me that we do episodes and there's 1,000 or 2,000 views of what we talk about on this show. So I really owe it all to you, and I thank you so much for the continued support. So episode 57 of Stub Love Live is done. I appreciate everyone watching. Again, I look forward to seeing everyone in about 60 days at this year's National.